Praise the Lord, everybody. Truly, God is great and he's greatly to be praised. My name is Pastor Tobias Brookins, pastor of the Bethesda Churches and Champion Center Church. And this is a COVID-19 training, which has been mandated by the state of California and CDC for all churches for their personnel to go through in order to reopen. I'm going to ask for all of those of you who are on Zoom to please mute your mics so that there's no feedback coming through. And I just thank God for all of you stepping up to the challenge. We're going to be kind of, give us a little grace tonight using the technology. So we have 4 presenters that are presenting what the CDC has mandated. And we are going to listen intently, and I'm asking that everyone would take notes. At the end of this, there is a little assessment test that we will take together to make sure that we're proficient in those areas. And this is just the first set of tests that the CDC wants us to go through. We also have set up our own, so there'll be an on-site training in the next coming weeks, in which we'll be able to get together and see how it's going to flow. I also want to make it very clear that our number one goal at the Bethesda Churches and Champion Center Church, number one, is that people come to a spiritual formation and transformation. That's our first goal. And a part of that is being wise, as the Lord says, as serpents, and that is protecting everyone's health. He said that his desire was for us to prosper and be in health, even as our soul prospers. And so this training, although it's going out to workers and those who are volunteering in church, but it really is for everybody to make sure that we can all keep each other safe. You know, just some years ago, you wouldn't have been considered doing anything wrong, sneezing out in the open. Only a few people who understood what germs could do would really kind of be offended with that. But now that we're understanding how viruses work, bacteria operates, and what it can cause, we're more aware and want to take precautions to make sure that the church is sanitized and that you're living a lifestyle that doesn't put anyone in jeopardy when we come back. Key things that have been emphasized by the CDC, and that is the COVID-19 virus is a part of a family of COVID viruses that have been in existence for some time. They have tracked these type of viruses for right at 40 years. And this particular strain of this virus, it attacks the respiratory system very hard. And it seems to be very deadly for those who are 55 years old and older and who have pre-existing conditions. Almost 95% of people who have succumbed to the COVID-19 virus have been in one of those 2 categories. So it's not just about age, but it's also the pre-existing condition piece that really makes it very difficult for people to bounce back. Are there some treatments in the works? There seems that there is. They're doing lots of tests right now on various drugs, pharmaceuticals that might be able to help people recover faster. But there is no cure. So much like HIV and AIDS, although there are some pharmaceuticals that can help people kind of overcome and get to a place of living of normal health, there is no cure. Because there is no cure, as a church, we want to take extra precautions. And I want you to know that because of the culture and the way we have church, it puts us as a church in need of serious step-by-step training. Why? Because we're always admonishing you to praise God with your voice. When we praise God with our voice, chances are some type of fluid, some type of and passing of air will take place. We say lift your hands. Sometimes people are moving around in church. Well, all of that for somebody who might be asymptomatic or have symptoms, active symptoms, puts the people around them in great jeopardy, okay, and danger. So we have 4 presenters tonight. Each of them have 20 minutes to present their materials. The first person is Sister Kaya Tana, and those of you who are taking notes, and I am as well, I'm going to write next to her name, self-screening. So the first area of training will be in self-screening. The second person who will present is our own administrator, and that's Angela Boyce. And the second topic, and I'm going to go ahead and just move a couple of lines down on my paper and put number 2. And it is, the topic is to work or not to work. To work or not to work. And then the third facilitator is going to be Sister Sherry and Sister Beverly. They're going to talk about proper face coverings. That's number 3, proper face coverings. And then our last presenter, which is our finance director, Sister Donna Grigsby, she will go into the COVID-19 prevention policy. Number 4 is the prevention policy. These are the 4 trainings that CDC has mandated that all of us take before we come back whole group. And I see some people getting on, so I'm going to admit them in there. Also note that as you're taking notes, listen in for the facilitators. I'm asking all of them to, as they summarize, to give us 3 key points that we need, 3 key points that we need, and it may come out in their presentations. I'm going to be serving as an assistant to them, and Sister Melissa. Sister Melissa, at this time, can you please put in the chat the survey or assessment if we haven't already? Have we done that already?
Yes, it's there.
Okay, I see that it's there. So everyone, if you could click in chat, and Sister Melissa, do you know if that's on our YouTube page yet?
I'm going to add it now. And I believe Christopher's trying to get into YouTube or Zoom.
Okay, that's fine. I already admitted them in.
Okay.
I admitted them in. Thank you so much. So in the chat, you see the link to the survey. We want all of us, I'm going to complete it as well. We're going to complete that survey, which serves as a test to show that we have a minimum level of understanding of each session. If it is better for you to open it up now on the side of your screen, and then at the end of the facilitator, as they give us the 3 key points, and you want to just type that in then, that's great. If you'd like to wait until the end, we're going to give you time at the end to complete that survey and turn that in so that we have on record everyone who has completed the training and everyone who has also shown their minimal level of knowledge of that training by completing the survey. So what I'm doing is I clicked it, and what it did was it brought me into the portal so that I can take the assessment. I'm gonna now minimize that screen and have it on the side, waiting as the facilitators present so that I can complete it. That's the way I'm going to complete it. It works better for me that way. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to pull up their presentations, and I believe everyone has sent me their presentation. Let me go back and just make sure. Yes, I have everyone's presentation that had something to present, and so I will open those up as they need me to in their presentations. At this time, I'm going to minimize the screen and I'm going to unmute Kayatana, and she's going to present to us self-screening at this time. Let me unmute her first. There we go. Sister Kayatana, can you hear me?
Yes, praise the Lord. I can hear you.
Excellent. The floor is all yours.
Okay, so self-screening is the topic that I've been given here. And the importance of self-screening is because you want to screen yourself before you even come in contact with anybody else. So if you know that you are exhibiting any symptoms, let me read this thing. If you have any of the symptoms, you don't even want to leave your house and contaminate or potentially contaminate anyone else. So if you know you're having a fever, if you know you have any sense of chills, runny nose, sore throat, cough, anything that's not from a previous existing condition, a health conditions, any shortness of breath, any excessive fatigue, any close unprotected contact with a known or suspected COVID-19 patient, these are the questions that you want to ask yourself. You don't even want to come to church. That's the questions that you're asking yourself before you even leave your house. And not only that, for your own self, you want to evaluate your own self so that you can see if you need to seek medical attention or if you need to self-isolate. Those are some important things that you should be asking yourself daily, especially if you are out and about. You should be evaluating yourself every morning. I self-check myself every morning. If I have to go to the store, I'm aware. I pay close attention to who I'm around, especially since I'm on a care team. I need to pay really close attention to who I'm around and who I'm in contact with. And anybody in my house has to pay close attention to who they're around and self-screen themselves. And you want to ensure that you are symptom-free. For if you have any of these issues, if you have any of these symptoms, you want to ensure that you have been symptom-free for 72 hours without the use of any fever-reducing medications for at least 72 hours, and that it has been 7 days since the first onset of the symptoms before you even attempt to come to the building, if that makes sense, if I didn't say it too fast. And if just the symptoms. Now, and if you've had any contact with somebody who has been exposed to COVID-19, then that isolation period is 14 days after seeking medical advice.
Sister Kayatana, can you repeat that where you talked about the 72 hours? Can you run that down again, please?
Yes. So now these symptoms, the sore throat, the runny nose, the cough, not associated with another health condition, meaning like if you have allergies, then that will be an existing health condition. So I'm not talking about that. Somebody who does not normally have these conditions and you exhibiting these conditions, or shortness of breath, not from another health condition, meaning I'm not talking about somebody who has asthma. And if you have excessive fatigue, that's not from another health condition, then that's when the 72 hours comes into play. So if you exhibit some of these conditions and once you're feeling better, 72 hours without using any medication and 7 days from the first onset of the condition. So 72 hours without use of medication and 7 days from the first onset of the condition. Now, if you have had close, unprotected, and they consider like 15 minutes or more. I say if you have any contact with somebody that is suspected or known to be COVID-19 positive, then that's when the isolation period is 14 days with the consultation of a medical professional. Did that answer the question? So now these are daily self-screening. And so you want to ask yourself, in the last 48 hours, have I experienced any of these issues? And don't self-doubt yourself. You know your body more than anybody else is going to know your body. And don't hesitate to take your temperature too, because you could have some of these symptoms without having a fever. And I think, I don't know if I shared this, during the screenings every day, I had somebody come to work and I asked a question. They had their temperature taken, they were fine, but then when we asked the question, they answered yes, that they had one of these symptoms. And I'm like, didn't you kind of know that before you came to work? So you can be fever free, yet you can answer yes to one of these questions. So I would say, if you answer yes to anything, then stay at home. Yes to any one question, stay at home. Does that make sense? That part makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. And those are CDC guidelines also. And so the County of Fresno has jumped on board and just stayed strict with the CDC guidelines as far as the isolation periods, the 72-hour period, along with the 7 days. So they go hand in hand. The 72 hours and the 7 days, they go hand in hand. I think that's part of the self-screening piece there, without overlapping into the next subject. I think that I kind of have to stop right there.
Excellent.
Step into Angie's.
Sister Cayetana, question. You mentioned the people in your house as well. So if my daughter has sniffles, if my daughter has a cough, and I'm around her, should I also self-isolate if I know that what she's experiencing is not from like allergy or something like that? Or am I just protecting myself while with her? Like, what if I don't have the symptoms, but someone in my house does?
So for me, so for my son, Curtis, if he has symptoms, he knows, he isolates himself. He doesn't come out. He isolates himself. Whatever he needs, he has to, he isolates himself. He doesn't have any contact. He doesn't go into like the common areas or anything like that while he's having those symptoms. That's how we do it. And while I'm sanitizing, and part of isolating, you need to still make sure you're sanitizing the common areas. Even if you think that person might, be isolated, you just don't even know what could, cross-contamination can happen. And so it's still sanitizing the common areas and things like that.
I really appreciate that. And before we move on to the next topic, can you capsulize 3 key points? Because on our survey and our quiz at the end, it asks what are 3 key points out of each session that we should know. So if you had to summarize those 3, what would those 3 be so we can take notes?
So you should be self-checking daily. That's the main thing. And if you have any symptom, you should stay at home. And if you're in doubt, you should stay at home. That was proven by the person that came to work, because he wasn't sure. He just showed up anyway. So I would say that daily, you should be doing daily self-checks. If you answer yes to any of those, stay at home. And if you are in doubt, stay at home.
And what are the 72, again, the 72 hours is for if I've had any of those symptoms, is that correct? And I should be 72 hour free, 72 hours free of those symptoms, is that correct?
So it's symptom free, 72 hours without the use of medication. And it has to be 7 days from the first day of the onset of the condition. So today is, what's today? I don't even know. Is it right? It's Thursday. So say if on Monday, you started feeling these symptoms and you started taking medication on Monday. So 72 hours, just say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you shouldn't. So today is Thursday. So if you stop taking medication, you pass the 72 hours now. Now today is Thursday, but you still haven't passed the 7-day mark. So you would not be able to come to church for any functions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until Sunday would be your 7th day. So even though you've been off the medication for the 72-hour period, your first onset was Monday. So the 7th day will be Sunday. So you shouldn't still even have any contact with anybody until that 7th day.
Thank you for that clarity. And I applaud you for taking on the challenge of providing us that information for the self-screening. Once again, that's the first session. It's under self-screening. And that was Kayatana Davis. Now we're going to move to the second session, which is...
This is Elder Griggs. Because she repeat the symptoms one more time?
Is going to come out in this session right now. Evangelist Boyce is going to present some of those symptoms, but I'll let her present it again though, so we can have it. Go ahead, Sister Kayatana.
The screening questions?
Just the symptoms.
The symptoms.
So, well, okay, so I guess when you're self-screening, so a fever of 100.4 or higher, or any sense of fever or chills, a new cough, sore throat, runny nose, not from another health condition, shortness of breath, not from another health condition. And these are not all inclusive, there are additional ones. These are the basic ones. Excessive fatigue, not from another health condition, or any close, unprotected contact with the suspected or known COVID-19 patient. And that they consider that 15 minutes within 6 feet of someone who has been exposure or diagnosed.
Okay, excellent. So now I'm going to unmute Angie. Let me see, can I unmute her?
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
If there's a person that is sent home because they have one of the symptoms, is the church responsible to follow up with them and actually count the days before they can come back, or is it on the person?
I can answer that actually. So although it's not beholden on us to count days per se, but we are responsible as a church to track and to also report. If somebody has had a contact, let's say someone shows up and they say, well, I may have had a contact or I'm sniffling and things of that nature. CDC is not asking us to report that somebody was sniffling or had a cough, but they do want us to trace them and track them. Because if it turns out that that person is COVID, has attained a COVID-19, and they ask us, we want to be able to say, Kayatana did come on Sunday and she was sniffling. We asked her, we turned her away and sent her back home so that they can be able to track. Because then if they got to her on Tuesday after that Sunday, they know now that all they have to do is begin to trace back 1 day or so, and then the days before that. So yes, we are responsible for knowing who we turned away and documenting that. We're not responsible for tracking the 7 days per se, but we are going to do that anyway. That means if Kayatana was turned away on Sunday, and then she tries to show up on Wednesday for Bible class, we would have already reached out to her on Monday. Hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Remember the 72-hour rule. We just want you to be, free of that symptom for 72 hours before you return. So that's the way we'll be handling that. I appreciate the question. At this time, we're going to move to the second presenter, and that is Angela Boyce, and she's her topic is to work or not to work. I turn you over into the hands of Angela Boyce.
Good evening, everyone. I sent out the COVID-19 screening checklist for visitors and employees. So hopefully you all have it. If not, I also sent it to Pastor.
Angie, is that the one that says symptoms of COVID-19?
No, that's my other part. It's the COVID-19 screening checklist for visitors and employees.
I'll pull it up right now.
I'll continue to move on. All visitors and employees entering the building must be asked the following questions. Even though Sister Kayatana has talked about self-screening, but we have a responsibility now when you come on campus, we're gonna re-ask you and recheck you. So I won't read the order. Well, on March 27th, the Fresno County of Fresno health officers issued an order requiring businesses to conduct workplace screenings to exclude those with fibrorespiratory illnesses. One, and we have already started doing this in the office. We started doing it with people. So people that come to the office, if you even coming in the office for a visit, we're going to ask you these questions, and we're going to go over them with you. And we have to ask. Number one, yes or no, since the last day of work or since you last visited the facility, have you experienced any of the following? One, new fever, 100.4 or higher. A sense of having a fever or chills. New cough, sore throat, runny nose, not from an existing health condition. New shortness of breath, you cannot attribute to another health condition. New excessive fatigue, you cannot attribute to another health condition. Have you had close, unprotected contact with a suspected or known COVID-19 patient? Spent longer than 15 minutes within 6 feet of someone who was sick with a fever or cough? If the visitor or the person or the employee, and that would be volunteers on the campus, if you answer yes to any of the questions, we cannot allow you to enter the facility. If an employee answers yes to any of the questions, do not allow them to enter the facility, instruct them to go home, inform them that they will need to use annual leave, inform them before returning they must be symptom-free for 72 hours without the use of fever-reducing medications and have improvement in respiratory symptoms. And at least 7 days must have passed since symptoms first appeared. Instruct them to speak with their supervisor before returning to work, and ensure information about employees sent home is updated in the COVID-19 roster.
And this is going to be very important, everyone, as team leaders, especially. So as an example, and it's only because I see her on my screen, Sister LaFall, who runs our Christian education, and she's watching over Sunday school teachers. And so those 5, 6, 7 people that are coming to teach that day, as those questions are asked, and then they may have been turned away, it's important that that participant report to Sister LaFall, what their health status is. And then she will be in contact with Evangelist Boyce, who's our administrator. So this is where our contact and our engagement with all of the volunteers and workers on campus is really important. And team leaders, you guys do a great job of really pushing in and knowing what's happening around the church. And this is going to be all the more important. Go ahead and continue, Evangelist.
If the visitor or employee answers no to all the questions, remind them to do the following: wash their hands or use alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain social distancing 6 feet. Should they feel any of these symptoms during the day, they are to leave work, or it would be leave church, whatever they're volunteering in, immediately, and contact, here it says their employer, which we use for the office, but it would be their team leader. I'd like to add, so you know that we've already started a file in administration, because even the workers that came to do communion. To use an example, I went through the questioning with them. Some of them were like, but this is a must. We're gonna do the questionings with you, and we make a file. I put your name. We have a system already in place that says, if it was me, you know that. So I have one of the other staffers to ask me. Like Sister Donna took my temperature last week with one of the temperature things. So we will have a place where we will actually be taking your temperature. Yes, you can tell us you don't have one, but we're gonna take your temperature to ensure that. And along with that, my other piece would be, I just want to go over symptoms again. Sister Kayatana hit it really well, but I just want to go over, that's my other presentation, Pastor. COVID-19 affects different people in different ways. Infected people have had a wide range of symptoms reported, from mild symptoms to severe illnesses. Symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure to the virus. People with these symptoms may have COVID-19. You may or you may not. What to look for again: fever or chills, cough, shortness of breath or difficult breathing, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting, diarrhea. Look for emergency warning signs for COVID-19. If someone is showing any of these signs, seek emergency medical care immediately. And that's the end of my presentation.
That is excellent.
But when you come to the office now too, Pastor, I do want to add that if you come to the office, we're already practicing safe distancing. I've already posted a sign. So if it's like we have a person that called and they wanted some more training on CCB, so we'll ask you the questions. We'll give you an appointment to come in because the space is limited. So we're practicing social distancing. You will get asked the questions. When even if you're coming, you'll get asked the questions and we will take your temperature.
Thank you so much. And you were just summarizing there, but because of our assessment at the end of this, what are the three, because I don't want to speak for you, but what are the three main things from that first presentation and second, maybe that we should be taking away from this? Is it well, I'll let you speak to it.
Pastor, you can speak to it.
No, so, because just as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking that first piece, number one, that everyone will be questioned when they enter the campus. That's number one. Number two, if you answer yes to any of those questions, you will be turned to. Number three, if the answer is no, we are still going to offer you the CDC recommended ways to stay safe. And the other points came out in Kayatana's piece. While we have the time, I would like to make sure that everyone knows where they can go to look at the Fresno County, the Fresno County numbers. And if you were to type in fresno.org, and I'm going to share my screen, it's going to bring you to a page that looks like this. And if you were to tap that first link, which says coronavirus update, it then is going to, if you scroll down, it's going to say authorized and non-authorized businesses, small, Save Our Small Business Grant. So there's grants that are out. It gives you a list of businesses that should be running and those that are not. But as I pull this up on the screen, this is current data. What you're going to see on this is going to give you the last time it was updated. It was 6/4/2020, so that was today. Total cases, 2,014. 61 have been travel related. That means it came in from outside. 927 were in close contact with those 61. 785 are community spread. That means we can't trace it to somebody who may have brought it in. 241 are under investigation. So those of you who, God forbid, you end up with symptoms and you go get checked, because it's best to get checked early on, because what they're finding out about COVID-19 is that if they can catch it early on, as with everything else, it's better, okay? But if you go in, what they're going to do is do an assessment of you, and they may send you home and tell you to self-isolate for 14 days. You would be in this number called under investigation. Then when the results come back, you would be able to know whether or not you had the antibiotics or if you had COVID-19. I did the test myself. I was found negative, but what was interesting, it took me 5 minutes, and it's a blood test. From what I'm understanding, the blood test is the better of the tests. Notice that in all of Fresno County, we've had 40 deaths. So when you all hear the discussion around the nation, that creates a lot of fear, right? So we should be vigilant, but I believe there's a lot of fear taking place, because when you hear what's happening in New York, sometimes New Yorkers and LA people, San Francisco people, they like to kind of speak for the rest of the nation. And so sometimes you're like, oh my goodness, it's everywhere. But if you notice, for us, these, as sad as it is, the 40 lost souls, those who transition, and we want to keep their families in prayer. There are 800,000 people just in Fresno City. So we've had 40 deaths to COVID-19 or COVID-19 related. You're going to hear those terms too, because remember, people have pre-existing conditions. And then there's only been 214 people who have ever been hospitalized. And then look at here, 595 have recovered. So it is our desire to make sure that if anyone associated with or visiting Bethesda churches were to contract COVID-19, that they would be a part of this recovered number. So the sooner we can catch it, the better. At this time, I'm going to move to our next presenter. And it is a tag team, just like in wrestling, you got the tag team. It is Sister Sherry and Sister Bev. And they are going to come. I believe Sister Sherry is going to be first. I need to find her so I can unmute her. There she is. Okay. Sister Sherry, you there?
Yes.
Are you going first?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have my presentation though. You muted yourself. Pastor, you're muted.
Is it the presentation Protecting the Body in the House of God?
Yes.
Okay, floor is all yours.
Thank you. Can you put it on presentation? Thank you. My part is on face masks and how to properly wear them, how to properly use them, when to dispose of them. Can I get the next slide, please? Face masks, they're there to protect not just us, but the people around us. And they don't, just because you're wearing a face mask, that doesn't mean that you don't have to social distance. we still need to practice social distancing, which is 6 feet. And that includes maintaining the space between us and our pastor. Next slide. When we wear our face masks, we need to make sure that our nose, our mouth are covered, as well as our chin, well, covering all the way to the chin, throughout the time that you're on campus. Can you click it one time for me, Pastor? If you need to remove your face mask, you need to make sure that you are not in an occupied area. So such as your car, but as long as you're on campus, you need to remain covered. I know that it's hot. I know that it gets uncomfortable and sweaty in there, but it's better to be hot and sweaty in there than to have COVID-19 on you and in you. Next slide. If something happens, because in all reality, we are worshipers and there will be a lot of vocalness. If your mask becomes soiled and wet, you need to discard of your mask. And when you, well, let me go back a little bit. When you're putting on your mask, you need to wash your hands before you even put on your mask. When you're taking off your mask, you also need to be careful not to actually touch the part that's covering your face, but just the part that's either going behind your head or, and even then, you need to wash your hands afterwards. Next one. And which brings me to my next point. Do not touch your face mask. Your face mask is protecting the people outside of you, but also you. And you're breathing in, which means it's stopping all those little germs. And if you touch it and possibly touch yourself, touch another part of your face, even though we're not, or you go touch something in church, you could infect someone else. And we don't want anyone else to be infected. If you adjust your face mask, you need to wash your hands immediately. Even just adjusting it, you need to wash your hands immediately. Next slide. We need to make sure that when we are washing our hands, we wash them properly, which is wetting your hands first, then getting soap on your hands, lathering it up, creating a lather. You need to do it for 20 seconds at least. They recommend that you sing sing the happy birthday song at least twice. Then you need to rinse and dry off your hands and use a paper towel to turn off the water. Me personally, I've always done it. I personally get a paper towel before I even turn on the water to turn the water on, because everybody that's touched those faucets, they've touched it with their germs, and most of them don't use a paper towel at all. So faucets are like a germy breeding spot. Next slide. My 3 takeaways. Remember to cover your nose, your mouth, and your chin at all times while you're on campus. Remember to remove and discard if your face mask is soiled or damaged, and do not touch your face mask.
Those of you who are taking notes, please jot that down. And go ahead.
We need to still practice this as far as the hand washing goes.
That's very, very good, Sister Sherry. And I was just going to ask you that I'm going to wait until Sister Bev completes her part. And I have some questions for both of you. Let me find Sister Bev and unmute her. By the way, you all can use the chat to ask questions, and then we'll get to them at the end. Let me find Sister Bev. Oh, there she is. Okay, Sister Bev,
Did I
can you,
unmute?
there you go.
Okay.
Okay,
Praise
go
the
ahead.
Lord, everyone.
Oh, you guys are sideways.
Oh, let me turn it up because we were plugging it in. Sorry. Okay, mine was pretty much covered by Sister Sherry because it had a lot to do with the sanitizing of the hands, the washing of the hands, which is really important to do. Not this, not this, and
Mm,
keep your hands away from your face and your body. Washing your hands 20 minutes, definitely, 20 seconds, definitely. But one thing 20 seconds. But definitely one thing that hasn't been mentioned by anyone is wearing glasses as well. When you're speaking with someone, some people have a tendency to walk past without a mask on. They may be speaking, spit can fly in your eyes. You can get your contamination through your eyes. So they tell you it's important to cover your eyes as well as your nose, as well as your mouth, and as well as your hands. Keep your hands with gloves if you can. You don't always have to, but it's important that you do try to protect yourself as much as possible. And then as they said, of course, if you're sick, stay home. We're trying to keep from spreading this. Some people don't know when they're sick. But as Sister Cayetana says, if you think you're sick, stay home. If you're not feeling well, it's an abnormal feeling, stay home. You know when you feel different than you normally do. When you sneeze and you cough, if you could possibly if you can get away with not sneezing in your mask, try to lift it up and sneeze in your arm, because that is going to go right through your mask. You're going to rebreathe what you didn't just sneezed out. So if you can, sometimes you can because it comes out real fast, but if you can, avoid sneezing in your mask. And it tells you to wash your mask, wash it daily if possible. If you don't want to do that, then you need to get the disposable masks. It's really important to keep yourself protected so you can protect others. So your 3 takeaways from this is to keep yourself protected so you can protect others. Keep your hands clean. Wash them with soap if possible. Like she said, use a paper towel to turn on the faucet. Use a paper towel to throw it away after you're done turning it off. But wear gloves if you can. Wear glasses to protect your eyes as well as your breathing and your speaking. And the other one is be considerate of others and try to stay 6 feet away from them. Some people don't care about your space. And you have to say it as nice as you can. Can you step back, please? Because I told this lady this at the store because she came right up on me. And I'm like, could you see that spot there on the floor? That's where you're supposed to wait. Could you step back, please? And she looked. And then eventually she moved back, but I think she was ready to tell me, I don't care about that, because she didn't even have a mask on. So I got a little bit feeling kind of little funny about, give me my space. I'm trying to stay healthy and I'm trying to stay well. I'm in that age range, so it's all good. But that's my presentation. I can't hear you.
Okay, thank you so much for that,
Okay.
Sister Bev and Sister Sherry. And I want to emphasize something that both of them said to everyone before we go to the last presentation. And I'll end with what Sister Beverly said. I'll start with what Sister Beverly said. You have the right to protect yourself. So people will try to make you feel guilty for them intruding on your space. Someone did that to my wife, actually, a gentleman coming up. Why are you wearing a mask? Why are you doing this? This is America. People do have the right to not wear the mask if they want to. That is their right, but they don't have the right to put your life in jeopardy. That's not the American way. So you do have the right to say, can you please back up? Can you please get in a space? Please just look down in these stores, just look down at the dots. Sometimes people, nonverbal sometimes work. I've done it in the ATM line. I just looked at the man and kind of looked down. He said, oh, and he went to the line. All right. I know that we're a very social people, but you have to be careful. What they're letting us know now is that our immune systems over the generations have been very strong with these new viruses that may be coming out now because they believe that this one will have another wave. We're not really equipped for this. The second thing I want to bring to your attention is that this beautiful mask, let me see, can I get it in there? There it is. Let me turn off my background. Just for a second. There we go. This beautiful mask that my wife purchased for me, both of us have identical masks. It looks wonderful. And there's a lot of stylish masks out there that you can wear. And I'm all for it. However, this mask is not what they call PPE. It is not personal protection equipment. It's a cloth. So what it essentially does is protects other people from the spittle that would come out of my mouth, but it doesn't protect me the other way. If I don't have on glasses, this virus can come into my eyes. This is the reason why we have ear, eyes, and nose specialists, because bacteria and viruses can flow typically through the ear, eyes, and nose. So when I have this on, if I'm not wearing glasses and you come up speaking to me and we're being jovial with each other and telling jokes, the spittle can still get in my eye and that can then infect me. So I just wanted to make that distinction. Not all masks that you wear are personal protection equipment like they wear in a hospital. Because in a hospital, they're wearing personal protection equipment that allows for them, and you'll notice they always wash their hands when they come into a room, they wash their hands when they leave. We all now as citizens need to follow those practices. Sister Sherry, Sister Bev, is there anything else you'd like to say before I move? No, Sister Sherry? Okay, hold on one second.
When you wash your hands, not only in between your fingers, but you also need to get under your nails.
Got it. Okay, we will now move to our last presenter, who is going to speak about the COVID-19 prevention policy, and that is Sister Donna Grisby. Let me find her and unmute her. There she is. Nothing. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Praise the Lord.
Praise him.
Okay, not to be redundant, so I'm going to try to skip over some things that have already been said, but in the prevention policy, first of all, I think it's been kind of covered how it's spread. It's spread person to person, and if you are close to a person less than 6 feet, respiratory droplets are what enter into your mouth or your nose or your eyes, up, and it's usually up on inhalation through your mouth and your nose. And sometimes they're saying that people don't even display symptoms. So that's where the mask really comes in, is really important, and the distancing is really important because some people have it, but they haven't displayed the symptoms yet. So they're encouraging you to even take those precautionary measures. What you can do to prevent getting it is, again, we've heard the washing of your hands. And if you aren't able to use soap and water, because that is the first thing they expect you to use, but we sometimes are not in places where we can use soap and water, then that's when the sanitizing comes in. Hand sanitizers, they're asking you to use a hand sanitizer that has at least 60% alcohol. So if you can't get somewhere to wash your hands, the next best thing is to use a hand sanitizer of some sort. And avoid touching your eyes. And I know this is really hard. I find myself even doing it subconsciously, but avoid touching your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. When you're out and about, just avoid touching. Sometimes you even have gloves on and you're touching. Just avoid touching those areas until you have cleaned your hands thoroughly. And then if someone is sick, of course, we've been told to stay home. And you should be in quarantine. That person should be in quarantine. Put distance between yourself and others. Again, 6 feet and more if possible. And avoid large gatherings. Now, I know that's strange because we're talking about coming together at the church, but sometimes people do a lot of other things like family gatherings and the park and the beach and all those places. They're saying to avoid those as much as possible. And again, remember that people could have the virus and just not displaying those symptoms. The next thing is we talked about the masks and the coverings. And one of the things, and I make masks and I tell people that it is not to take the place of your 6 foot distance, social distancing, by no means. So please don't walk in the midst of somebody that just coughed and think that that mask is going to protect you, because it's not. It's just there as a shield. The cloth mask, they're saying to wash them, you can put them, you can actually, if you have more than one mask, and if you're using cloth masks, you probably want to have more than one. I have several, and let one air out as you wear the other one. Keep them in your car, keep them in your purse, because other places are requiring that you have them. We are going to put signs up. I hope we're going to put signs up telling people when they come on the campus that we require asking them to wear a mask. But we will have masks. I'm going to cover that in a minute. We will have masks for those that show up without them. It's already been said about how to sneeze and cough, covering your mouth or put your hand into your elbow. And then the disinfecting is the other thing that we want to make sure we do. We want to make sure that when people, after our services, that we disinfect those areas, doorknobs, toilet handles, all of the areas that people are touching. We want to make sure that that's being disinfected. They're saying if it's dirty, so if there's visible dirt, wash it off with soap and water, and then do the disinfecting. Don't try to disinfect over dirt. Just wash it, and then we do the disinfecting. In part of our Bethesda's disinfecting process, we will be using a mister that it's it's an electronic type of mister that will shoot out very, very small mist, but the mist will be able to take care of any type of virus or any type of microorganisms that are floating around the air. It'll be able to take care of that. So we are going to be doing as much as possible to make sure that the sanctuary and all areas of the church where people are congregating is safe. Let's see. Then these are the things that Bethesda, going back one thing about the PPE. They're saying that PPE, like Pastor had mentioned, that is for people who are actually in close contact and taking care of patients. We will not be providing those type of masks for our workers. We will provide the masks, the normal masks that everybody else is getting. We will have those available for workers, volunteers. So if you come and you soil yours or whatever, we will have masks. We will also have gloves for people who are maybe coming in contact with certain things or just feel better about the protection, that layer of protection. There will be gloves available. We will be having hand sanitizer stations. So we will have all of those things will be in place to make it as easy as possible for people to stay within those, the protection of the protection from the COVID-19 virus. There will also be a station for taking temperatures. We do have a non-contact thermometer that will be used by the health professional or someone in that area. So there will be no need to touch or do anything have hands on a person. You'll be able to do that without touching them or coming in really close proximity to them. There will also be signage showing where the stations are and giving direction on where people can go and how they are to move around the campus. Let's see. And I think that's it. I think that's it. So my the three things, and I think it's been already said about the self-screening, but also just checking for those symptoms and remembering that, you know, as we move about, keeping that distance. So practicing the 6 feet social distancing. So that's the second one. And then the third one is wearing your protective mask at all times. And it doesn't have to be like Pastor has a cloth one. We have the other ones that are disposable. It just needs to be a barrier between you, actually between you and the other person. And that's it.
And one of the things that I just want to emphasize before we take our quiz and document this part of our training is that, you know, in Matthew chapter 4, Jesus was tempted by Satan. And Satan took him up and told him, why don't you jump? You know that the angels are going to give charge and keep you from falling lest your foot would dash against a stone. Jesus absolutely could have jumped, and guess what? Angels would have come and protected him. But he tells Satan, don't tempt the Lord thy God. In other words, don't in pride try to prove that you are supernatural. You don't have to jump into a pit full of snakes to prove that you have the Holy Spirit, because the Bible says, you know, and if the serpent bites you, you will not die. The Lord is pointing out through the Holy Script, from what I can glean, that for those things that are outside of your control, I will be there to protect you. So if I, as the pastor, have decided to lead by example, to say, I'm not going to try to prove that I have faith. So I'm going to walk around without a mask and I'm going to put myself in COVID-19 infected areas because I'm going to prove to everybody that I'm so holy, that I'm so strong, that I'm so pastor, that I'm so filled with the Holy Spirit that I don't need to do this. I'm asking all of you as leaders to also follow my motto and follow my leading, which means you don't show up to church just because you feel like you can. I don't need this mask. I ain't got nothing. Don't avoid that kind of feeling, because I know that the Spirit will protect you. I know you will be kept. Let's not tempt the Lord our God. Also, let's be a good example of what good health looks like to the community. The community's perception largely is that these are necessary precautions to keep everyone safe. We don't want one, not you all, but one visitor, someone coming in looking for salvation, to look up around and say, how can I receive salvation in this place when they won't even keep me physically safe? Thirdly, we want to have a good name in the community. We want to make sure that no one leaves Bethesda and says, I went to that church and I got infected because they did not go through the protocols that were set by the CDC. We want to have a good name, and we have a great name, guys. And it's largely because you all have come into this legacy and you continue that great work. So with that said, I would like everyone to go to the chat If you're watching by YouTube, Sister Melissa has put that in the comment section. Open up your test, and I want you to take, I'm going to give pause right now, and I'm going to allow you to take the next 4 minutes to complete the assessment. It has 3 key points of session 1. Session 1 was self-screening. Then it has 3 key points of session 2. Then session 3 and session 4. I'm going to complete mine now as well. I'll give you all 4 minutes of pause. Those of you who are watching online, we're expecting that you would take this time too, even if you watch this later.
You said the quiz is in the chat?
Yes, it is. If you go all the way up to the top of the chat and click that link.
The top is 615, Janice Butler. I don't see it.
Okay, let me go back to it. Yes, all the way at the top of the chat.
Okay, it's from Melissa Harris.
Yes.
I just
Yeah.
reposted it as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Pastor, I opened the one that you know, when you said we go to it and then push it to the side, I can still do it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And before you submit, keep it open because I'm going to ask our facilitators to come back on and give us those 3 points. Yeah, keep it open.
Do I submit?
Don't. Yes, please don't submit. Although you may feel sure of your answers, we just want to let our facilitators also kind of talk us through it because this is not a trick exam. We want everyone to get those key points so that we can memorialize that. Okay, Sister Sherry, I know people are still writing down answers. I'm going to unmute you. Could you give us, and you were in session 2, no, 3, I'm sorry, you were in session 3. Can you give us those 3 main points again for session 3? Session 3?
Nose, mouth, and chin to remain covered at all times with your face mask. Remove and discard face mask if soiled or damaged. And the third one is do not touch your face mask. Want me to repeat them?
Please.
Number 1, keep your nose, mouth, and chin covered the whole time you're on campus. Number 2, remove and discard your face mask if soiled or damaged. And number 3, do not touch your face mask.
Once again, all that was for session 3. And now I'm going to ask Sister Cayetana if she would come on and give us 3 points to help some of us who are just trying to remember. We took it in, but we're just trying to remember. Sister Cayetana, can you give us 3?
The first one was the daily screenings. If you had any symptoms and you answered yes to those symptoms, to stay home. And the third one was that if you were in doubt, to stay home. So the first one, complete your screenings daily. The second one was if there's a yes to any of those symptoms, to stay home. The third one is if you were in doubt or questionable about any symptoms, to stay home.
Thank you for that. Okay, Sister Angie, I'm going to unmute you. If you could give us, let me find you here. Oh, it's iPhone. There it is. Sister Angie, are you on? No? Hold on, guys. Just trying to get her unmuted. There we go. Let's see. It doesn't want to unmute.
See if she can unmute herself.
Angie, can you unmute yourself? You unmuted and then I muted you back. There we go. Can you give us your 3, Angie, please? This is for session 2, everyone, session 2.
Do pre-screening before you come to the campus. Number 2, follow the screening checklist for workers, visitors, and employees. And the third one would be wash your hands, maintain social distancing. And if you feel any of the symptoms, if you feel any of the symptoms coming on, even though you were okay when you came on campus, to go home.
Thank you so much. And then lastly, we will have Sister Donna. Can you see if you can unmute yourself? That's a very nice fan. That fan is, I mean, it's saying something.
What are you talking about?
There you go.
Okay. 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 The first one is self-screening. Practice social distancing and wear protective masks.
It's amazing how that cycled through as the main points of each one. And everyone on your assessment, it says, I agree to adhere to all training information presented in this online training. If you do, please click yes. If not, put no. Then I agree to stay home if I have met one of the symptoms listed in the training that may put someone who is 65 or older or who has pre-existing conditions at risk.
Oops.
Please click yes. And then, somebody's mic is unmuted. Let me see.
Oh, mine.
Okay. Then what you want to do at the bottom is you want to click submit.
Okay.
And when you click submit, that form is going to go into our admin database. For those of you who are watching via YouTube, do know that this is a very tough time for the whole world. 189 countries have been negatively impacted by COVID-19. In the United States, we are survivors and thrivers. We have overcome so many pandemics and war, and even now as we go through a next wave of growing pains that's going to bring us into a beautiful place where all people feel loved and accepted and are treated equally. So even through all of the protests, we are going to come out better. And so this training that was mandated by the state, we embrace it. We said we would study to show ourselves approved, workmen that need not be ashamed. We embrace it. So now that we finished this portion, for everyone who completed this part of the training and people who did not, they will have to complete this part of the training in order to serve when we open back up. The next piece for those of you who are serving is we are going to, in the next few weeks, schedule an on-site training. That's when we're going to come together and we're going to be able to look at the spacing of Bethesda Central. And then from there, we're going to set a date for our phase 1 reopening, which is just for staff. Then phase 2, staff and family. Phase 3 is when we're going to start allowing for registration for services. We will have our work with the trustee board and also the team leaders to come with the schedule of services. It looks as though we'll start with one service for registration, and then we'll start rolling out registration services that will allow people every Sunday to decide if they're coming or not. And we will have a registrar with everyone who will be there so that we can track if anyone were to get sick, we would know exactly where they're coming from. At this time, I'm going to mute everyone. I looked through the question section and I believe I answered every question. Okay. Yes, I believe that I did answer every question. Do note that we'll reach out to all of you again for our next training. And I'm excited that you took out the time to make sure that yourself, that you and your family are safe, but also that when we reopen, we can be a beacon of light in Fresno, and that we will be able to provide a safe, spiritually transformed church. God bless you all. And please remember, you are a champion through Jesus.